Ashley and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is not the video that I wanted to have up this week. That video was actually supposed to happen last week, but things have been crazy here with school and with trying to juggle everything. So I figured I would film a video that would probably require less editing and work. So I'm going to try to stay on track, try to give out all the information that I can. But I thought today that I could talk about my MS story. So as a lot of you may know, a lot of people who watch my channel are friends or family, so they know about this, but I was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was just diagnosed January 6th, but most likely I have had this for about going on 6 years now. I was kind of expecting it. I've had similar issues and I will tell you about this in my story, but most likely I've had this for about 5-6 years, but I just got diagnosed. So to tell this story, I figured I would start at the beginning. So I first started experiencing symptoms going into 2015. So I was in my second semester at Tech. It had been a very, very rough year for different reasons, but I took the new semester. I was like, you know what? We're going to start off clean. We're going to start off fresh. I'm going to get involved, which never happened. Very introverted, don't like doing things, never in groups or anything like that. But anyways, so around my birthday, I remember this because I came home for my birthday. I woke up one day and I just couldn't see out of my right eye. I thought it was just something weird going on, but this actually lasted for months. I went to many doctors in Lubbock. I saw one doctor who he was throwing out MS a lot, but I never really thought that that was me. I looked up, like as anybody would do, I looked up a lot of articles and things about MS and like what the symptoms are like and things like that. And I just didn't feel like that was me. I did not think that was my story. I was like, no, it's something weird, whatever. We did a lot of tests. I had MRIs done. I had vision tests done. And it was very strange because my MRIs came back normal. Whenever you have MS, the first sign of it is vision loss. And that's because your optic nerve begins to show damage. And so they looked at that. Everything was fine there. And so my grandfather, he is actually a doctor as well. And so I went and saw him and he gave me IV steroids over 3 days. And within the next couple of weeks, my vision cleared up. So from February to maybe around June, I had this vision problem and no one could explain it. And the doctor that I had been seeing in Lubbock, he was like, the only way that this can really be solved is if you get a spinal tap. And that is when I said bye-bye to that doctor, because I was not doing that. I don't like needles. I don't have like any tattoos or anything. I have piercings and I'm like, that's it for me. That's as far as I'm gonna go. I think I've seen a spinal tap done on Grey's Anatomy. It was either Grey's Anatomy or House. And seeing such a long needle go into somebody's back, I was not gonna do that if I had an option not to. So I decided not to do it. My vision cleared up. Everything was fine. I was like, you know what? It's fine. I was super healthy. I had no other symptoms at that time. So I was like, you know what? We're going to keep it rolling. We're going to keep it moving. There were times where I was like, you know, that was like a really weird thing that happened a couple years ago. Like, that's very strange. I hope it never happens again. But obviously was not that lucky. So last year, around March, it happened again. I woke up and I couldn't see and I just knew. I was like, okay, this is a serious issue. This is a serious problem. So I went to my eye doctors again. Once again, no optic nerve damage. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I really want somebody to help me figure this out. And between that time that I had my MRIs, because I usually get MRIs pretty consistently, I also suffer with migraines pretty badly. So that's another terrible health thing that I have to deal with. But anyways, so I had multiple MRIs between my first MS scare and that time, and everything came back normal every single time. The doctors never saw anything weird. I didn't have any symptoms or anything, so they always thought it could be a possibility, but it wasn't very likely just because they didn't see anything. And usually with MS, you see what they call lesions because you actually have damage to the nerves in your brain. And I didn't have any of that. So I felt pretty confident for years that that's not what this was. I was just a random case because of course it would happen to me. But on this last MRI that I had, the nurse practitioner called me and she said, you know, you have some white spots in your brain, which could just be from your migraines. I've had migraines ever since I was in elementary and middle school. So I was like, you know, that makes sense. I mean, having migraines twice a month for, I'm not even going to do that math because I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to do that. But years, you know, many, many years, that makes sense to me. It was very alarming just because they had never seen that before. But I mean, they didn't do anything else at that time. They were just like, you know, it's something that we need to keep an eye on. So I just kept it moving, you know. And with the neurologist in my area, we only have like 2 of them in the city. And so from March until November, I didn't see him or anything just because he's very busy, has a big caseload. He's a wonderful person. He's helped me a lot with my migraines. I don't have to really deal with that very much anymore, so I'm very grateful to that. But in November, with my checkup, I thought it was just a regular checkup. I was like, yay, just gonna make sure that he knows that everything's great. He's gonna refill my prescriptions. Everything's gonna be good. But he brought back up the fact that I had symptoms, and I kind of knew where it was going, but I was like, you know, it's fine. I had my MRI. There was little things that might be concerning, but she said it was fine. It's fine. But he decided that he was going to actually look at the MRI again. And I kind of had that feeling like this is going to go down a path that I didn't want it to go down. But I just sat there and I waited and I waited and I waited. And that's kind of how you know when something is wrong, because you wait in an office, in a room by yourself for what seems like an eternity, and you're like, there is something wrong, because if it was fine, he would have been back within 5 minutes. It doesn't, well, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I feel like it shouldn't take that long to read an MRI. So I kind of just had that feeling, that sinking feeling, like something must be seriously wrong that he's taking this much time to read this. So he came back in finally. It was about 20 minutes later. It seemed like it might have been shorter than that, but in my mind, it was 20 minutes. And he was like, okay, so we are going to do a spinal tap. He told it to me like that because I told him before he left the room, if I don't have to, I'm not going to. Like, don't give me the option, because if you give me the option to have a giant needle that in my mind seems like this big into my spine, I'm not going to volunteer for that unless it actually has to happen. And so he finally put his foot down with me, which I'm really grateful that he did, because otherwise I would not be where I am right now, which could be really, really terrible. But he finally put his foot down. He was like, you are getting a spinal tap. The only problem that I had with him on this was that I met with him on like a Thursday. It was like a Thursday during the week in November. And on Friday, his office called me and said that I was having my spinal tap on Monday. And I was like, whoa, I haven't even had time to process that I'm going to have this gigantic rod plunged in my, like, I need time, because I will not be able to function. This whole procedure will not happen on Monday. It's not happening. So I did get that rescheduled, and I got pushed further back because I was not going to do that on Monday. I needed time. So between November and December, I did notice some things that were very strange that had never happened to me before. And part of me thought that maybe it was like all in my head, like maybe I was just thinking, like, you know, maybe I'm making this happen. I know I asked my coworker, Ashley, wonderful person, also on YouTube, go follow her. But I asked her because her sister has MS. And so I was like, what was the first signs that she had it? Like, what did she notice? And she told me that she had like a lot of tingling, like in her hands and stuff. And then she just couldn't walk. And I took that and I was like, you know what? I've never had that problem. Like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Like, I'm fine. They're not going to find anything because I don't have that. Never had that. And then like a day or two later, I noticed my hands would tingle, as if, like, you know when you sleep wrong and like the blood flow is like restricted and then you like shake it out and you feel that tingling? I felt that tingling, and I felt it for days and days and weeks between November and December, in the time that I had my spinal tap. And I was like stuck in this situation where I was like, is this just my mind playing tricks on me and making these things happen? Because it's never happened before until I asked her what the symptoms were. And now I can't go a single day without having tingling in my hands. Like, my hands would feel numb, and it was just like a really scary time where I was like, okay, this is something new. And if I do have MS, that's when you want to be the most concerned, because something new has popped up. And so I tried to keep as calm as I could. I prayed a lot. And I think that's the only reason why I am able to handle this as well as I am. And that I was able to go through this process is because I prayed a lot for peace, because I knew that it looked bad. I knew that it probably wasn't going to go the way that I wanted it to go, or that other people wanted it to go, just because the symptoms were starting to come up. My brain scans were showing different things, and now I had to get a spinal tap, which is terrible. And so I just wanted to have that peace that, like, if it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, that I would still be okay. So I finally got it together throughout a couple of weeks, and I went and got my spinal tap. They did have to give me a Valium, which it didn't do anything for me at all. It like did nothing for me. So I'm still a little peeved about that. I'm like, did you just give me a sugar pill or something? Because everybody was talking up this Valium, like, you're not gonna care, you're not gonna worry. I was shaking in my boots. I actually broke down crying. They had to draw my blood before, more needles. They had to draw my blood before I had the MRI. And my husband, my poor husband, he was just there, and I was just bawling. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to do this. I was very emotional that day. And I give myself a pass because I had to have a needle shoved into my spine. So that was fine. But I went in, they gave me the spinal tap. I had actually looked up YouTube videos to see what other people's experiences were too, so I could know what to expect, because the unexpected was what was really scary for me. But my experience was completely different from anyone else's. And I think that's something that I want to give out to anybody else who might be going through this. You can watch the videos if it makes you feel better, but just know, like, it's going to be completely different, because the people that I watched, they had all these terrible symptoms, and they had migraines after it, because if you do get a spinal tap, like something shoved into your spine, they can trigger migraines. And I've had terrible migraines my entire life. So I was like, this is going to be my story. I'm going to have to deal with this. And I had nothing. I felt nothing. They gave me lidocaine in my back, so I didn't feel the needle at all. Like, it was a cakewalk. I think I built it up in my mind. Well, I know I built it up in my mind to be like this big, horrific, terrible, life-ending procedure. And it was nothing. It was actually easier than I think my MRIs were, which is very weird, but in MRIs, I get very uncomfortable. I really don't like laying in the position, like my back always starts hurting. It's like a whole thing. So I feel like I would rather do that than my MRIs. The only problem is that you have to lay down flat for like a full 24 hours, and it was hard. I thought that would be the easiest part. No, it was hard. And my husband was also very hard on me. He was a great caretaker, but I just wanted to sit. Like, I wanted to sit. I've never wanted to sit so much before in my life. I was so tired of just laying down flat. Like, I wanted to go up and get water or go to the bathroom or whatever, but those are things that you can't really do much of, just because you have to make sure that the hole in your back and in your spine closes, because if not, then that can cause other problems, and it's a whole thing. So I had to lay still for like 24 hours, and that was the hardest part of that whole procedure. Everything else went very smoothly. The doctor was very good at what he was doing. He did nick a nerve, and that was terrifying. So he hit a nerve in my back, and my left legs just started like tingling. And I was like, sir, please. And he just readjusted it, and it was completely fine. But outside of that, like, it was perfectly fine. I had to get another round of blood drawn because they have to do it before and after for some reason. And for somebody who hates needles, having MS is literally the worst thing. The worst thing. So I got stuck 4 times that day. I thought it was only 3. 4 times because one of the nurses tried to go through my veins, and I'm not one to toot my own horn, but I have fantastic veins. Fantastic veins. You can find those in the dark. Like, they are so visible. They don't roll around or do anything weird. They are great veins, and I pride myself on that, and she missed. And I was kind of at my breaking point at that time. I was like, hello? I had my blood drawn already once. Hated that. Don't like having my blood drawn. Then I had to have a needle shoved into my back, and now you have to stick me twice to get some more blood from me. Haven't y'all got enough? Haven't you got enough of me? She finally got the blood though, so it was okay. And life kept moving. My husband went and bought me some chocolate cake, and chocolate cake at BSA Hospital, y'all, it's the bomb. It's the best cake that you could probably ever have. It was amazing, and I ate the whole thing by myself, and no regrets because I deserved it. But anyways, so did all that trauma aside, celebrated the new year. I still hadn't heard anything because they said that it would be maybe like a 3-day turnaround where they would be able to get me results, which I wanted just for peace of mind, just so I could have an answer, because I've been struggling with this for 5, going on 6 years. So it's like I really wanted an answer, a yes or no answer, a definitive answer on whether I needed to worry about this or if I can move on. And so they called me on January 6th, and they were like, yeah, sorry, but you have it, sorry. And so that was kind of a tough day. I do want to say thank you to everybody who reached out, who commented on my post, because I did post about it on Facebook and Instagram, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who offered that support. Try not to get emotional. But it was very appreciated. It really does help knowing that other people struggle with chronic illnesses, and it sucks. It sucks. It's never fun, but it's nice knowing that, like, you're not alone. So I just want to say thank you. But I met with my nurse practitioner again a couple weeks later so we could talk about treatment. And the biggest thing about having MS is catching it soon, catching it as early as you can, and starting to treat it as soon as you can. So the kind that I have is the relapse remitting kind. It's the most common type. That is where you will have symptoms and then they go away. you never get cured of it because there is no cure of it, but you can have periods of symptoms where things are going weird. You might not be able to see, you might not be able to walk, you might have tingling, all sorts of different things could happen. And then magically they can go away. So that's the kind that I experienced where they showed up in 2015 and then I had that huge break, multiple years where I had no indication, nothing was wrong, nothing was showing up in my scans. And the reason that it didn't show up in my scans is because we caught it so early. So it's a really good, I have a good prognosis, I guess you can say, as long as the medication that I'm taking works. So another thing that needs to be touched on a little bit, I'm going to try not to rant, is that having MS is expensive. I don't know who could actually afford to have this disease. Not the common person, I can tell you that, because the medication that I am on, it's called Aubagio. It is $1,245 a month. And for somebody like me, I don't make a lot right now. It's enough for what I need for my life. Thank you to my husband and his bank account. But I could not afford that medication on my own. I don't know who could. I mean, and that was the copay. That wasn't the cost of the total medication like altogether. That was the cost of the copay. So after my insurance had covered some of it. So I don't understand how this medication could be that expensive. It's literally like this big and it is so incredibly expensive. And I did the math and it would cost me around $15,000 a year to have this medication. And that's just 30 days for 12 months of this medication. So I am luckily able to be on a copay assistance program. It's called MS One-to-One, and luckily they covered the rest of it. So I don't have to pay for anything for this year. So I'll be able to get my medication for free and get treatment so that I don't have to worry about going into debt, more debt because I'm in grad school. Thank you, education. But it's just like, how do we expect normal people? I mean, and I'm lucky because I get to be on a copay assistance program, but I know that there are some medications out there that don't have those assistance programs. So it's like, what do you do? Do you just lay down and die? Like, do you start selling off all of your things? Like, what are you supposed to do whenever you get a chronic health issue that you didn't ask for, that there's no way you could have planned for, that you couldn't have caused in any way? It's just something that happens. What are you supposed to do? So that's just something that I think more people need to talk about, is that medication should not cause you to go homeless. It should not cause you to go into bankruptcy. It should not cost you over half, almost 95% of your monthly income. It just shouldn't. I don't care what they put into it. It doesn't matter. But so now I have been on this medication Aubagio for about 3 weeks now, 2-3 weeks. When I first started it, it sucked. I felt like I was a space cadet. I felt like I couldn't think straight. I felt like I was really foggy, like just things were not making sense. And they were things that should have made sense because they were clear as day, but I just felt like I had to spend so much time thinking because I couldn't think clearly. I felt really nauseous, and other side effects happened that I'm not going to get into because that is TMI, but it was just not something that I was like, okay, this makes me feel worse than when I wasn't on anything at all. And it kind of sucks because I know, like, I don't have an option. I can't just not get treatment, because if I do that, then I can potentially get worse. Talking to my nurse practitioner, it's actually African Americans actually have a more aggressive, whenever they do get MS, it's more aggressive, it progresses faster, and the symptoms are a lot worse. And so that's like not an option for me to just say, I don't like taking this medication, so I'm just not going to take it. So I stuck it out and I feel better now. I still don't feel like my best at times, but a majority of the time when I do take this medication, I feel okay now. It just took a little while to get used to it, as I should have expected. I was just hoping that I would just be able to start taking it and everything would be good, but that's not my story, and it never has been. So, I will try to educate myself more on this disease. I've looked at a ton of things. I've read a whole book and did a report about it in my undergrad because I was like, they thought I had this, but I don't. I think maybe I jinxed myself. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm going to try to educate myself more, try to keep everybody updated. I am supposed to go in again for another MRI next month, and I have to get my blood drawn again because the medication that I am on, while it could help me with my MS, it could also destroy my liver, which is something that you can't live without. So yeah, I have to get blood drawn every month for the next 6 months, and then every 6 months for the rest of my life. Isn't this just a great chronic disease to have when you hate needles? Love this. Love everything. Just kidding. It could be so much worse. It could be way worse. So I'm very grateful that it's something that is treatable, that it's something that I can actually get despite how expensive that it is. I'm really grateful for being able to be treated and to get better. I'm gonna try to keep everybody updated whenever I find out new things, whenever I get a new MRI, if this medication is working for me, if I have to change medication, anything like that. And I'm also gonna try to start taking care of my body. I noticed that whenever I was my healthiest, I did not have any issues. So I'm gonna try and see that if I'm switching my lifestyle to be healthier, if that could help me out in any way. And even if it doesn't, I mean, I need to be healthier anyways. I've said that in many videos before. So I just wanted to tell you guys my story. It's kind of chaotic. It's kind of all over the place. And that's pretty much how my life is right now. So thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry that this was so long. I really tried to do a video that was short, but I love to talk. So I'm sorry about that. But thank you so much for listening to my story. If you also have MS, please tell me what you're doing down below. If you're going through a hard time, I would like to talk to you too, because, you know, we're all going to be going through hard times at one point or another. So thank you so much for watching and listening to my story. Please comment down below. Let me know what else you would like to see from me as well, because I don't want every video to be heavy or like talk about this. I really want to use this as an escape from all of the stresses in my life. So just let me know. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.